Buddy the dog, you sunning yourself in the nice sun, which we haven't had for a while? Enjoying life? Sure. Yep. Well, we're gonna get to doing some more tractor stories, I guess, right after this. All right, welcome back. If you haven't seen my videos before, I'm Rusty Oliver, man. We'll do some more quick where did they come from stories, even though this has all been in the videos I have on the equipment tour, I guess, but there is a few additions. So we'll start out here and work through this area, and then there'll be some parts and piece tractors, I guess, too. But here we have the 4180, which I bought, I don't know now, 7-8 years ago on an auction just up the road. They actually ended up having two of them on that same sale. The other one had 38-inch singles and then duals on it. Thin tires is what I'm saying, with duals. And then this one was like it was, but had crappy tires all the way around and an obnoxious muffler on it and stuff. And so I gave, I think, $4,000 for it. And I've since spent more than that in tires putting on it, but it's been fairly good, other than the biggest trouble I had with it was that year when the transmission lube pump quit. And it was at the very end when I was done with it in the spring. And so we tackled that in a video, and that was absolutely no fun because of the way these are made. There's plenty of videos on the channel about where I'm talking about how they're different, but the 4180 is a totally different animal inside. This tractor, I think, was sold new in Odin, Indiana. There's just a very light amount left on this sticker. But yeah, Reed's Tractor in Odin, Indiana. Don't think I've ever been there, but sure. So that's 4180. 4150 just came this year, and it was a screaming deal. Had to have it. This was a local tractor. This was sold new here to a guy that lived out on the other end of the county, and so it came from our dealer. Lived its life out there, and then they sold it, and a guy just to the other side of me on the opposite end of the county, he bought it, and it lived there for years. And then I bought it at that auction, which I didn't know. I kind of knew there was one of these out there, but I had never really investigated it. He had also at one time a front wheel assist. It was either a 2050 or a 2150, and ended up selling that to a tractor collector. And then, yeah, and then he ended up reselling it to somebody else after he restored it. But they had this, and I first found out that it was coming available in the springtime of last year. The old guy had died, and somebody at church came up to me and said, hey, you need he said it was a 21, did he say it was a 2180 or something, or a 2150? I think that's what he said. He said, don't you need a 2150? And I said, well, I don't know, I don't have one. But he said, well, these people are wanting to sell stuff, and said, you need to get a hold of them and whatever. Well, I didn't have any of their contact information, so he was gonna try to get a hold of them to get a hold of me, and I didn't hear anything. A couple of weeks later, he said, hey, he said, I talked to him and they wanted like $11,000 for this. And I said, well, they aren't even close. I said, I'm not interested. So that was where that died. I didn't even go look at it. And then it was like the day before the auction. How was that? It was around the 4th of July when this happened, because I went and looked at it on the 4th of July, I think, which was the day before the sale, or maybe that was 2 days before the sale. I'm not sure. I don't remember now exactly how that played out, but basically I found out about there was going to be an auction like a day or two before the sale, like right before. I think somebody called me on the 4th of July and said there was going to be an auction on Saturday, and then so I went the next day and looked at it, and then went back Saturday and bought it. And nobody else was really interested in it. I would have got it a lot cheaper for almost nothing. If there was a couple guys that came from up north that were needing a parts tractor and they wanted that, but really I think this is too good to be a parts tractor. It seems to run fine. Right now it's not running. I don't know what's the issue. It doesn't want to start sitting here, so when it gets nice and warm we'll mess with it again and hopefully it'll fire right up and we'll figure out. The only thing I can think is it's sitting on kind of an incline, and I question how good the tank is inside, that maybe it's sucking air, or I don't know. We'll just have to, we just got it basically. I mean, we haven't really done much of anything to it except little piddly things, cosmetic things to make it more better. We added the lube system warning, we added the dipstick thing on there. That was a service bulletin update. So we're gonna make it better, but it's gonna take time, you know. But anyway, this one I think I only gave $2,000 for, so I thought it was a good deal. Little Jubilee Ford we started working on because the steering box was messed up, and then we haven't done any more to it. People said, oh, you need to fix it up and whatever, and I kind of regret listening to them because now it's tore apart, and I don't know, who knows how long it's going to be like this whenever I get time to work on it again. I need to just slap it back together and then forget that trying to fix it up, because I could be using it, you know, and so whatever. But this little Jubilee was actually the first tractor I ever had, given to me by my great-grandpa. It was around my whole life. It lived on the place where we lived because that was his farm, and my dad and mom pulled a house trailer out there, and that's where I grew up to start with. And then maybe when I was 3 or 4 years old, they needed some more room, and so he said, why don't you just trade with me? So they traded places with him, and that's how she went. And I'm looking right now around, and I need to get it out of here because it looks like this building is about to collapse. So we've saved it as long as we could, and I'm afraid it's pretty well done. So I should probably get it out of here and these corn planters before they get crushed. But I bet I won't. I bet I'll leave it in here, and then the beam will come down on it and totally destroy this. So why wouldn't I do that way, you know? Oh well, we can pound out the dents, I guess, when that happens. But Golden Jubilee Ford was the only year they called it a Golden Jubilee was 1953. So that's what this is. And then after that, it was just called the NAA Ford. And first one I believe they ever made that had an overhead valve engine, because the 8-in Ford was a flathead and had a lot to be desired. So this was a much better machine and very, very handy. There's that annoying little thing we need to do something with sometime. A Sears Handyman RT. I had several people reach out and wanted to buy it, and then when I told them what I wanted for it, they got all huffy, like they didn't think that was right. Well, then it can sit here, you know. It's mine, so it is what it is. But basically what happens is the coil's dead, and we're gonna have to, if we want to run it, just put a little battery on there and a car coil and go again. But whatever. Here's a 70 that we bought in a video last year sometime, and the plan was to take this one and make one on steel wheels out of the other one I've got on steel wheels. So we got it running and drove it around, and we got the wheels freed up so that they'll slide off easy. Now we got to work on the other one and get the steel wheels off so we can just slap them on here, and then decide if we want to make this a wide front. Then we got to take loose this front half of the frame and bolt the other one on and go. So I think that'd be kind of neat, because you don't see many 70 wide fronts. Grandpa really wanted that other one fixed up because he thought it was neat looking. So I think I'm just going to swap one for the other and put the wide front and the steel wheels on here, and then there we have it. So, but it is running and driving. We just need to, you know, finish what we started, which is the regret of my life on many things. I just can never seem to get all the projects finished. Consequently, I can't remember what I gave for this, 500 bucks, but it was worth that. drove like 2 hours away to go get it. Super nice guys that were, you know, kind of working on the farm, trying to clean up so they had room to store extra hay and straw and stuff that they were custom baling. So yeah, that's where I saw it on Marketplace and went up and bought it. VAC case. This little thing, we bought at an auction, and it was an old guy who lived locally. He had 5 or 6 tractors, and I've said before, he had a Cockshutt 20, and that's the tractor I really wanted, but what it amounted to was they were down there. I went over one time and even got them running and kind of drove the ones around that would run, and that was that. They didn't necessarily want to sell them at the time, but then one day she called and said, hey, I decided to sell them, but they're going to be up at this auction. So went up there, and that Cockshutt brought a ridiculous price at that auction. And so we ended up buying this. I think we gave $1,100 for it. Brought it home, drove it a day, and then the rear end locked up, and it wouldn't move. Couldn't even pull the gear shift lever. So I finally put a pipe wrench in the power takeoff, spun it backwards, got the transmission unlocked, pulled the cover off, and almost every gear was bad. So I ended up buying a parts tractor and then another transmission, and out of that stuff I was able to make one good transmission, and that's what's in it now. It has not been the most reliable runner for whatever reason, so we're going to have to really investigate into that some more. I took it to the fair a couple years ago. That gave me an excuse to get it out and running again for a change, but it needs some more love. It did not have any of that hitch stuff on it. That was on the parts tractor, so I took it off, painted it up, and put it on here to make it more complete. This does not have the eagle hitch, as they called it. This has got some other kind of hydraulic lift that was earlier. Those tractors that were later had like a big hydraulic unit with the rock shaft back here under the seat, and that was totally different. But anyway, this hitch is kind of useless because you'd have to have the implement that fits it. But what I was after, if I can get the hydraulics working, which they don't now for some reason, if I could figure out how to make that work, I think I could adapt I have like a little potato plow, and I think I could hook it, make it work on there, where then this tractor would have something that it could do, you know. Or you could take it out and you could plow little furrows and waterways and stuff in the field. But that's another project someday to get to. Flat top fendered 770 came from an auction up the road, consignment auction. I bought it the same day I bought my hay bind, hooked the two together and pulled it home. I don't remember what I gave for this thing. I want to say it was $2,000, maybe. I'm even boring myself, so hopefully you're still paying attention. But I don't know. It was, I always wanted a flat top fendered 770, and it was the end of the year. You need to spend money or you give it away to the government. So I bought a tractor and a hay bind, and it's been a pretty good runner. We did a lot to it here lately, trying to get the carburetor cleaned up and fix that. Yeah, it wasn't running very good, but we got that, I think, squared away. And it had this rickety homemade hitch on it, and the only reason it's still on there is because it works great then to use this post hole digger. So that's why I left it alone like that. But it's been a good one. I mean, it just needs cosmetic stuff. The last guy really liked the paintbrush, I think, because he brush painted on the wrong color green all over the rust and everything, and then he hand painted this nice nameplate with, I mean, look at that fine lettering and stuff. So I don't know, that needs fixed up because it kind of breaks your brain to look at that, but it's here and not in the junkyard, so that's the main goal. Which brings us to this. This is a Cockshutt 50 diesel, and I bought it in pieces at an auction. I think we gave like $300 or $400 for it. It's a local tractor. I thought it'd be neat to have an old diesel tractor, but I haven't ever gotten any farther with it. It was missing sheet metal, and it was missing some steering box pieces, and I kind of had that rounded up a little bit. But then now, those people had kept a Cockshutt, or I don't know if it's a Cockshutt or a Co-op E4, but they kept one, and then their building burnt down, so then I ended up with that tractor as a parts tractor. So if I go out to the woods there in my dead row, I could salvage the pieces I need to get that back the way it needs to be. And something should probably be done with it because it's growing to the ground. But will I ever get that done? I just don't know. But once again, it's in the shed and not in the junkyard. And so that's got to be worth something, you know, you would think. But it is what it is. 2020 John Deere. We've seen a lot of this lately too, for whatever reason. It's just kind of unusual, but it's been in a lot of videos lately because I've been using it to feed with. Grandpa bought it new. When he started farming, he started with that B John Deere and, you know, little sawed off horse tools and stuff, and then, you know, got a little implement here or there or whatever to update. But finally, he decided he wanted a new tractor, so he went around to all the dealers and priced different stuff, you know. Priced a Alice Chalmers, I think, D19, and priced this at the John Deere store, priced a probably like a 1600 utility or whatever, 1650. And because he wanted a tractor that was low enough to get in the barn, it would pull a 4-bottom plow, and he wanted the ground clearance, is what I'm trying to say. So that's why he didn't just want a low-down tractor. And so this one is a high utility, a 2020 HU. And it's on 36-inch rear tires, which is kind of unusual. You don't see very many that way. You see a lot of them as the RU, the regular utility, and some that are the LU, low utility. But he bought the tractor and loader first. And then after Grandma's constant nagging about safety and whatever, because my dad was wanting to run tractors as a little boy, then she wouldn't hardly let him do it till Grandpa bought this roll guard. So that's a factory roll guard that came 2 or 3 years after he bought the tractor, and it's been on there ever since. However, when you want to clean out barns with it, then you got to take the roll guard off, and that ain't very handy because it's got super long bolts on it, and I've even sawed some off, and Grandpa sawed some off before that. He said, I don't know why they made them so long, but I guess this one roll guard probably fit multiple tractors, so they just sent that all in the kit. But he put it on himself, and like he said, the bolts, they were insanely long. I sawed off some more, so it wasn't that long, because if you sat there now in the days of impact sockets, it's probably not a big deal, or ratcheting wrenches, I'm saying, because it was long enough. There's no way you couldn't get a socket on there at all. I mean, but it doesn't come off of there much anymore. I've got other tractors that can do that job. It's down to, I mean, we're just making it a little better as we go. It's another one that's a daily use tractor, so it's hard to really put it out of commission for a long time and do stuff. But we did do repairs, and we got those hydraulic things, I think, where they're not leaking. So when it gets nice and warm, we can pressure wash this all off, and it should stay green back here from now on, but we'll see. I really need to, I was going to try to fix these fenders, but I don't know, maybe I ought to just buy a set of the new Chinesium ones and be done with it, because they're pretty rough. I'm sure the new ones are half the thickness of these, but they're rotted all the way. Like, this side isn't as bad as the other side. I know when I painted it, I tried to fill it with Bondo just to make it somewhat less obnoxious looking, but that's not the way to go. I wanted headlights to work, so I started feeding wires, and I thought for now I just punched a hole through the rust where I could get through and be done with it. But I don't know. The only reason why I didn't buy new fenders a long time ago is I'm not sure that since this is the high utility, are the fenders really the same as the ones you can buy aftermarket, or are these a different part number of fenders? I've never looked that up yet, so we need to do that, because that might be a thing. But that's on the list to do. Maybe this summer we'll pull those fenders off one at a time, patch them up, and finish getting the lights worked. The lights have never worked my entire life, because when you took the roll guard off, he took the fenders off with him and didn't put them back on while he was cleaning. So the headlights just were not hooked up. He never did anything in the dark, so the headlights didn't need to work for him, and they didn't on most anything we had at the final thing. I'm the one who got all the headlights going again. So Anyway, that's never leaving here. That's always been here since it's new. It's never lived anywhere else. 2020 John Deere. This one I forgot the other day, but 2844 Hart Par. It's just been kind of hanging out in here. The manifold was junk and we were working on that. I'm kind of worried that it's going to get stuck sitting here. I don't know. I've tried to turn it over every so often, but I don't have a lot to work with here. The brackets broke. I thought this tractor should be saved, but I'm starting to think that it would make really nice yard art and just forget it. But I don't know. We can try it here and see if it'll... Yeah, it still turns. So that's good. If they got a hand crank, I always try to turn them over every so often so that we don't have a bad thing happen. But I'm gonna have to just probably try to make a manifold or work on that one I got. It's very, very rough, and I'm sure it'll never run with that as it was. But that's another thing on the project list. It should probably be shoved forward so it was all the way under the shed better, but I don't know. All this stuff needs rearranged and cleaned out and stuff, because I could get at least another tractor under this shed, but really that wooden box bed wagon belongs under here too. I don't know. We got stuff we need to do someday, and I think we could, through efficient stacking and organization, we could probably make this much better than it is. But a 2844 Hart Par I bought from a neighbor who is a tractor collector. He claimed they had it running once years ago, but then he just shoved it in the shed and kept moving it around with another tractor. And finally, every year he usually sells 2 or 3 tractors and then buys one really nice one back. And so this was one of the ones he wanted to sell, and I thought it was cool. So I like old steel wheel tractors if I could just get some that were running, So another project for another day. Well, it's interesting. I see some footprints here, and I'm wondering who's been trespassing here, because I don't think my boots made those footprints. So that's nice if you're helping yourself and you have no right to. Well, this is an 1850 in pieces. I bought it totally in pieces, parted out, and started putting it back together. It's gonna mess with it. My cousin claims he wants it, so whenever he produces some $100 bills, he can own it and he can finish it, put it back together the rest of the way. He's got a motor out of a combine that would go right in here, and you could have a running tractor. So I don't know. It's nothing special. It's just a Johnny Cash tractor, one piece at a time. But I always wanted an 1850. They always seem to bring pretty good money, but I got enough projects, so if he wants this one, that's fine. He just gotta come up with the green stuff. 1600, bought it on an auction. It's got a motor problem. The oil pan's off of it. This is as far as it got. Came from Illinois. Bought it on an auction for what I thought was a great price. Had a bit of a dispute over the shipping. Got that worked out. It arrived here, and that's as far as it got. Haven't had time to mess with it. Probably should, because it was probably savable when it came, and now it's probably a parts tractor. I don't know. We'll just have to dive into it one day. I don't even remember what I paid for it. I just know that at the time I was not happy with the whole ordeal. I have since kind of, blood pressure's lowered a little bit to where I might think about start working on it. But yeah, I wanted a 1600 because the co-op always had one at the feed mill, and I'd play on it as a kid. I thought it was neat, but I don't know, just another tractor that needs some love, and maybe one of these days it'll get it. Here's the row of shame, I guess. We got a 77 with a different engine in it that turns out that it's got problems. So I got different main bearings for it, never got that done. We should probably mess with that. I didn't give almost nothing for this, scrap price. But the only reason why is because I think this might have been the one that great grandpa had. There's some signs on it that point me to that conclusion, but I'll never know for sure. We've got the 1955, which I bought from a guy. It had that cab on it, took that off. I wanted another 55 series tractor, and the motor's totally garbage. I mean, it needs totally rebuilt, and I've just never had a time to do it. But I'm thinking that I'm going to. I'm thinking that very soon we're going to tear it apart so that I might be able to get the machine work I need done by the two guys that I trust to do it, because they're probably thinking about retirement pretty soon, and I wouldn't mind to have this motor be one of the things that I had them do it on, because when I take something to them and have them do something for me, that I don't have to question their work. When I get it back, it's exactly right. So that's what I want. But I think I gave $2,500 for this tractor. It had duals on it and had a full set of the flat weights, which are now in that 1800C, and that cab on it, which wasn't much, but it's got the dual hubs on it. So this is a tractor I'd really like to see going again, because I like these tractors, but it's going to be a lot of work. But hey, hobbies aren't to make money, they're to have fun. So we'll get to it one of these days. There's the 70 on steel that is going to be, the two shall become one. We'll take those wheels off and probably that front end, put them on that other one, and then we might make us up some yard art here out of whatever pieces we got left, because that's about as good as some of that stuff is. It's basically only good for yard art. Pretty rough. The original motor had been busted, so the other guy had got another motor for it. I took it apart, it was junk. So then I got a third motor to put in it out of a tractor, and then found out that it was junk. So it just didn't have a lot going for it. It was just, everything was not going its way. But I think I gave $800 for this years ago off eBay, and I kind of figured that the back wheels and the front axle was worth that. So not out much, but hopefully we can use parts of that to make the other one more better and have us something this year sometime. 552 forklift, or 551 forklift I should say. I always wanted an Oliver forklift. I really wanted a 552 with the square sheet metal, because that's what the co-op had when I was a kid, and I remember seeing that. But then I saw this and I thought it was cool because it still looks like the tractor. And supposedly the engine runs, but there's a major meltdown in the transmission. I started to try to take it apart, but you got to take the whole forklift off of it first to where you can even think about getting into the tractor part. But I since have got another rear end, so we might have enough parts to make something fly. It's just going to be very involved and take time. I don't remember what I gave for it. I don't think it was a whole heck of a lot of money, but I had it shipped here from Wisconsin, and that wasn't really that much either. The guy I deal with, he brought it down for me, and it wasn't too awful bad. So anyway, I'd like to get that going because it would be super handy around here, but that's life. 1355 potential heritage tractor. We bought that on an auction a couple years ago. Went down the journey of sadness, got it running, fixed up to try it out, and then discovered it didn't have any oil pressure. So I pulled the pan off the bottom, only to find that the only way you can change the oil pump is by splitting the tractor and taking the bottom half off of the block. So as soon as we get that 550 done for the customer, we're going to put this in that hole and do that split so that we can maybe get this to where it's running and driving again. It was running and driving. I drove it around, if you recall, but I had no clutch, so that needs attention, and then no oil pressure, and the oil pump was garbage. So I didn't know what I would find, because when I bought it, it was half apart, and so we just had to start putting stuff together so we could assess what shape it really was in. But it's fairly complete now, because I've gathered all the pieces I need out of the other parts tractors that I've had. It bears saving if it really is a heritage tractor, because it has an Oliver tag and it's painted red underneath. So it has the best shot of anything to be one. And I think I gave $800 for this tractor on the auction. It had a loader on it. I sold the loader to viewer David, who I got Freddie the Fiat from. later on. So I sold that loader, and then I don't remember what else might have been on it that I sold. Basically, the tractor was free by the time I was done with the money I made off the video of getting it and selling the loader and stuff. The tractor was free, but then I had to put money back into parts. So I don't know how it is now. Maybe it's evened out, but it's one I want to get done because I think it'd look cool painted up in the heritage scheme. So that's on the list. Here's an E4 co-op that's been hanging out here. Probably not good for it to be sitting out here. A guy gave that to me after I bought that 50 diesel. It had a terrible engine in it that somebody had tried to get the sleeves out with a chisel. I found a motor out of a Gleaner combine that fits right in there, but I never could get it started. So something ain't right, and we just need to plug away at that project. The sheet metal's pretty straight. I only pulled it out of the shed because it was the Corona time, and that's when I had to have something to do with myself. So I went ahead and put that motor in there, and that's all she wrote. So we need to get back on that sometime, because maybe it wouldn't take much. If I could have somebody pull me around, it might start up. I don't know. But yeah, we'll just have to get back on that, like we need more projects. But it is what it is. It's kind of a localish tractor. I don't know if he said it was his uncle's tractor and it came from a town that was north of here, but I don't know. I always liked the co-op tractors, so just another one that is on the list waiting. And here we have, finally, let's finish up with the old 9650. A tractor that came into my life kind of by coincidence or accident, I don't know. It lived right over there across the road, and when he quit farming, he was going to sell stuff off. He had this Landau, and I said I wanted the Landau. It was in pieces. And then he said, instead of paying me, how about you work on 2 of my tractors for me? So that's what I did, a Kubota, and then this one. And then what it amounts to is, it had a terrible oil leak. I got that fixed, and anyway, got it back to where it was running and driving. And he said, I want to sell it. So he said, see if you can sell it for me. And I had it listed for over a year, and I got 2 calls on it, and neither one was really what it should have been. So anyway, finally it was growing up in the weeds, and I said, what are you going to do with this thing? Because I said, now it needs batteries, and we got to do something. And he said, I still want to sell it. And I said, well, if you want to work something out, I said, I might just buy it. And that's what we did. So I didn't give that much for it. It's still got some stuff that it would need to make it perfect. It needs work on the front axle clutch because it's always in 4-wheel drive, which is no big deal. I just don't run it very fast down the road. And that's fine too, because it goes like 30 miles an hour down the road, and that's a lot faster than I want to go in a tractor. I don't know what to say about it. It's been pretty good. The worst I've had so far, knock on wood, is I had the front axle, this outboard seal started leaking that one year. We fixed that. I see that I never got that nut spud on there all the way, so that's nice. It was missing one, and I think the threads are messed up, and I don't know. We'll deal with that later. But I had to fix that seal in there, and then now it is leaking out of the power steering on this side. So what I got to do is get this spun off of there so that I can slide that off the end of the rod and change it. It's not really a big deal. This is the most difficult thing, is trying to get that spun off of there. And I don't remember how difficult that was, because for some reason I think that I did the other side already. I don't remember. Or the other thing is, maybe that is where I spun that. I don't know. For some reason I thought I had that loose to do this over here, and I don't know why or how many or what thing, but I might be thinking of when I worked in the shop. We worked on these a bunch, and I don't think that's going to be any fun, but it's got to happen. But it's going to happen when it's warmer outside. But we'll get that spun off of there somehow, and then we'll get to working on the old steering there, and we just fix that seal, we should be good to go again. I'm tempted to do both sides, but I don't know if we want to do that right away. But at any rate, it's been a pretty good one. It's Deutz air cooled, and yeah, I mean, for the size tractor and the age, I think I got a good deal. But it's orange, so take that for what it's worth. It's here. It doesn't maybe fit in with the color, but underneath it really is a white tractor. I mean, with a Deutz engine. So it's the same as those 6000 series white tractors. So yeah, I guess we're gonna call that the end. That's pretty well everything except for the real terrible tractors that are in a lot of pieces. So hopefully that answered some people's questions, because I get a lot of questions about stuff they see in the background and tell the story on this. And that's probably all in old videos, but sometimes it's hard to look back and find them. So I didn't figure there was any harm in just saying it again. So there you go. Do you suffer from low intelligence and are easily entertained? Well, then hit that thumbs up button and leave a comment. And that way we can keep making entertainment that your feeble minds can understand. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.